apparently there was a very heated debate with Demon Mama and Hans on mandatory schooling. And I'll just link this. It's not too long. It's 30 minutes. It looks interesting. So let's give this a watch and see what what arguments are made.
I genuinely did not expect like this level of actual bad faith from you.
I'm so sorry.
No,
yeah. Well, I don't think you are.
I'm not.
I think you're exactly. That's what I thought.
All right,
so
have a good one.
And that's where we will end this.
All right. It's quite the intro there. Yeah.
All right, chat.
So far, okay. I think Hans has already lost the debate. If he would have let that intro music play for a little bit longer so I could bop for another 5 to 10 seconds, I think I'd be a lot more favorable towards his position. But he didn't do that, so I'm kind of on the fence about him so far. But yeah, let's keep going.
Who's ready? Who's ready? It's time. We do a little debating. Hello, hello. You are live. How are we doing?
Why? Hello, my friend.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Seem pretty hyped for this, huh?
Oh, I mean, I'm excited.
Demon Mama sounds very tired.
You know?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. So.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I don't know. We can start anywhere. Like, you're the one who put up the video and put up the stream and whatever. We can start wherever you'd like.
Of course. So let's start with the olive branch. Ready?
I
think we both want to improve education, right?
I don't know what's happened before this, but Demon Mama seems incredibly tired and like upset beforehand. I don't know what video they're talking about, but Demon Mama doesn't sound happy so far.
I would be in favor of things like, say, like no homework, better training for teachers, smaller class sizes, like more options, like not just like the memorization box, like some people in chat have like said. I think there's a lot of ways of currently fixing education, but I think where we differ is that I still believe in mandates for some flavor of education, one of these types.
Well, yeah, because we have it appears we have very different sort of perceptions on how the state should be involved in these sort of things.
Okay, so
yeah,
give me.
And I have a problem with a state demanding that children have to go to a school, especially a school system that's deeply, deeply flawed.
So unless the school is would you?
Okay, so I'm guessing the argument from Demon Mama is gonna be here that like what if authoritarian states like force kids to go into an education system that is like bad, that has bad values or like bad like teaching systems or result in bad outcomes or something, which I mean that's like a valid concern to have, but I don't know if that like validates like an abolition of a mandate. So for instance, I think that the focus there should be on improving the educational systems, because we know that like not mandating them, and the reason why not mandating them is going to be more beneficial according to Demon Mama would be that then hey, people wouldn't go to school, so they would get educated by other means. I find it very like hard to believe that those types of like education that they can receive from not school is going to be anywhere near like good enough or close enough to even like the bad educational system that exists right now in the United States of America. That's point number one. And problem number two with that is that a bunch of people, especially more like like anti-establishment, very sort of like anti-intellectual people, are going to use this opportunity to take their kids out of perfectly functional schools potentially and just do like very shitty homeschooling for them instead. So yeah, I guess that's what's going on here, but let's check this out.
You'd be okay with mandates if school was perfect?
No.
Okay, so then like that point doesn't matter. So
for fuck's sake. Oh no. Oh, it's been like 30 seconds. Okay, this is something that's annoying when people do, okay? If you're gonna make an argument and you're gonna say, hey, this is my opening argument, this is one of the key reasons I don't want to have mandates because I believe that the school system like isn't good right now. And then the follow-up question then is like super easy. So it's like, okay, if it was perfect, would you be in favor of mandates then? If they just say, no, I still wouldn't be in favor of mandates, then the fact that the school system is bad isn't actually what's important for you when it comes to whether or not you want to do that thing or you want to do that argument or you want to like abolish mandates. So the first thing would there be like, by definition, it's a red herring, right? It's something you throw out there as like a potential concern. but it's not really what's important to you or your argument. So it's like the textbook definition of a red herring, right? It's just there to like distract and sort of muddy the waters, I suppose, instead of actually getting at the core of the issue. So yeah, not a good start, I guess, from Demon Mummy here, but let's keep watching.
I mean, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean that point doesn't matter?
You said like you had a problem with state mandating like imperfect schools, and asked if you'd be okay with the state mandating.
Yeah, no, I said especially when they're imperfect.
So she does actually end up clarifying and saying especially here, which is helpful because it just means that she was like fleshing more, adding more context, I suppose, to her point that was being made. So I think this is bad, and I think it's especially bad in today's situation. But nevertheless, I think it was a good idea for Hanz to ask that question and be like, okay, so if it was perfect, would you have a problem with it then? And then to make sure that we get rid of that as soon as possible, so that you're getting to the real, like the core aspect of the discussion here. So to be clear, Demon Mama necessarily didn't make an argument that's like, okay, well, this wasn't actually really an argument. It's more like, okay, well, she threw this in here at the end, and it's a good thing that Hanz noticed that, okay, this isn't really like vital to the key reason why you believe this, so let's check this. Okay, this isn't vital, so let's throw it out and focus on the really like key aspects instead of like focusing on like modifying factors that make that thing already worse.
Perfect. But okay, yes, so I don't really believe the state should or the state has a right to force people to do something that is something like education. I think you can make a more salient argument for something like vaccines, where it's a viral vector, it's a force of nature that there's nothing that we can really do about, that people spread to other people. So I know the first thing people tend to go to on this, and I've seen this online, is, oh, well, would you support the state doing vaccine mandates? I think that's a really complicated question, much more in depth. On a larger scale, I'd say no, but that's because a vaccine has to do with spreading a disease to other people, and vaccines are largely valuable not just for the self, but for stopping a disease that's killing people. I don't think we can make that argument for school.
So I think there's a lot of different things to do. Number one, vaccine isn't only for stopping people from getting sick, from just getting like generally infected, from like spreading it to other people. It's not just like killing that's the barrier for harm there. Like we've seen the damage it's done to an economy, even if we would have like assumed that nobody died. So let's just add some more context to that. Generally, I don't like to be satisfied with people saying like, for example, it's okay when government does this but not that, and then you don't actually give like the key distinguishing factor between that. The distinguishing factors we've been giving here is like because it doesn't kill people, but we haven't really heard an explanation for why that's like a distinguishing factor between the two of them. So for instance, like, when my follow-up to this would be that, well, hey, not having an educated population or a population that's like homeschooled is going to have downstream effects on all of society as a whole, right? Because you're less likely to see educated populations, you're less likely to see people going to higher education, you're just going to have a less qualified workforce, it's going to damage the economy, it's going to make life harder on most people, it's going to cause a contraction of the economy, increase of consumer prices, and just generally bring about a harder time on the country as a whole. So like, even though, you know, I guess the connection between like bad education and people dying is like less than the connection between lack of vaccines and people dying, although I would still make the argument that it's indirectly there is still a whole bunch of negative fallout on the other people around you and in society as a whole of not being educated as compared to like taking the vaccination. I think that's like a comparable degree of similarity there, especially when you talk about like tax burdens of different members of the population compared to whether or not they're educated or not. That's another, you know, sort of like aspect we can draw into this. So far, I don't like this argument at all. And just to be very clear, so that we know what side I'm on here, I think mandatory schooling is a good thing, and it should be there, which is why I'm making these arguments. But yeah, let's keep going.
And I would disagree. I would say that a society where 15% of the population not knowing how to read or write, in a society where it's virtually like necessary to exist in society, I would say that is absolutely atrocious. I think that like...
Oh, I agree.
Okay, so...
But I agree with you.
Okay, so if we agree with that, then my question is, I do not see any way that we can improve schools to the point where children will choose schools, or their guardians will choose schools, depending on like if we say the guardians are oppressing the kids as well. If people will choose to go to school over literally anything and everything else they can do, how can we make school literally the best?
I think that's like a bit of an odd like hypothetical to set up, but like
but this is super necessary.
Hold on a second. Let's hold on a second. Let's deal with what you said there. So You stated that 15% of our society.
So basically, the argument Hans is making here is that, okay, so if you agree that there's bad outcomes from people not going to school, Hans has then assumed that, okay, so like in order to meet Demon Mama's like threshold for evidence here, he would have to like pose the question that there's no way that operating within our system, we will be able to create like a society in which an equal amount of people go to school. And for that to be the case, you would have to create an educational system that is so desirable that every single independent actor like chooses voluntarily to go to school or to send their kids to school, which is incredibly unlikely. So yeah.
Society being illiterate and whatever, and I can't remember what the other thing that you said was, is really bad. I agree with you 100%. I just don't think that the solution is mandatory schooling. I don't think that mandatory schooling helps at all. I think that using that there's so many ways. If you can't imagine an alternative way besides threatening kids or their parents to get them to participate in school, I think that demonstrates the problem with the schooling system as it currently exists. School is like miserable for people, for a lot of people, especially neuroatypical people. And I say this as somebody who is not only neuroatypical, but also succeeded very well in school, and also grew up in like a cult. I don't think that mandatory schooling addresses any of the like meaningful problems that we have with education. All it does is mean that there are punishments for the child and their family for choosing to not, or deciding not, that they don't want to endure that system.
Okay, so let's like handle these separately. The first one.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a strange argument there. I'm not sure. So like, she still has to prove that people not going to school has better outcomes than them going to even a bad school, which is going to be a pretty hard bar to clear. I would say definitely 100%. Furthermore, I don't know how you could like live in a world in which you would believe, or like how the mechanization works for like you'd believe that there would be like less or not a significant more like amount of people that go to school when it's mandated compared to when it's not. I'm not sure how like that works either. And it's true that a lot of schools are really bad for people, especially neurodivergent people, but the solution to that should be to improve schools, not to just like say that, okay, well, I guess like the implication here is that even less neurodivergent people are going to go to school, because schooling system is so bad for them. Like, assuming there was no mandate, more people would choose to abstain from going to school if they were neurodivergent. And I don't think this would work at all in benefit of like destigmatizing issues in relation to like neurodivergency, or like making it better for them, or like helping them socialize more efficiently. I think if anything, this is just going to segregate them more and lead to worse outcomes and more like stigmatization of neurodivergent people as like a group. So I don't think that would help like neurodivergent people either. So yeah, I don't know. We'll keep watching.
One is that we have a problem with the schooling system. Again, I agree with you. I don't think that's what we're debating on. You said you said that the school is bad for neurodivergent people. I am very much in favor of like improving school for people who either think differently or have anything else that makes school harder. I am all for improving it. I still want to mandate them to have school. And I know you said that like this, and so then what I'm asking is, how do we ensure that we get enough of society, because you agree that's a terrible thing. It's like if we have like a portion of society that can't read or write, how do we get them to voluntarily choose this like education system, or the new one, like the good one that we made, over literally anything and everything else they can do?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of ways to do that. Like literally, there's so many. There's like almost an infinite amount of ways to do that. You can entice them with interesting things, stuff like, I don't know, there's like a million ways you could do this. You could offer some sort of things like, I mean, one great example is like the free lunches is something that gets a lot of kids to show up to school. That's one thing, because it addresses an economic issue that prevents kids from going to school. It really depends on which part of the school that you're trying, or which part of people avoiding schooling that you're trying to deal with. So like,
well, free food, I mean, the easy answer to this is just, okay, well, free food should just be part of schooling, and schooling should still be mandatory. Like, this isn't something that like if this is like a negative that's like seen with like the current educational system, and like it would attract more people if like, you know, if it wasn't mandated but it was like inferred, then why don't just add that and have the mandates as well, to make sure that people take advantage of that like economic benefit. So like this is a like what she needs to provide now is some like unique incentive, I suppose, to like going to get education that couldn't just be put on top of a mandate to not only make sure people go to school, but also make it better for them when they are at school. So we'll see if any of the other ones clear that bar. I suppose like the only like argument that would kind of make sense here would be like if you made an argument that, hey, if it was no longer like mandatory to go to schooling, then schools would have to like compete more and just become better organically to throw people like in there. And I don't know about most of you, but I think that competition within education, especially like stuff like this, is probably not a good direction to take the educational system, and I don't think Demon Mom would agree with that if I just like stated that to her. So yeah, we'll see what their other suggestions are here.
Like you can name a reason why somebody wouldn't go to school, and I can try to give you a potential solution for that issue. I just don't think that like
she just said millions of solutions, and she mentioned one here.
Even in the absence of solutions to these individual problems, that justifies mandatory schooling, that justifies using the threat of law or the threat of the state against to force people who are deeply either suffering in school or who, for whatever reason, don't feel like the school system is ideal for them.
But you said that the suffering and the badness of the school is irrelevant to like the mandation of like people going. Like, what if we had like a perfect school?
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a million options where like
sure. You still don't get to force somebody to do that.
Okay,
you don't get to force someone to go do something.
So now Hanz says Hans. I'm sorry. Hans is the Swedish person. Hans has gotten her on this twice. Like, okay, she needs to stop. She needs to like drop the argument on like the quality things, because clearly it's not relevant for Demon Mama, because Demon Mama just said, hey, even if it was perfect, I still wouldn't be in favor of a mandate. So that's what needs to be argued. You shouldn't need to argue like improvement of the school, because you both agree that it should be improved, but it's still insufficient for Demon Mama to change her argument. So what Hans is doing, and he's pointing out correctly that, hey, the reason why you believe this isn't because of what you're saying right now. There is something else. It's the actual mandates in itself that you have an issue with, not necessarily the quality of education. Yet all you've talked about so far is the quality of the educational system. So there's something you're not telling me right now, which we should be talking about. So yeah, that's good on Hans for recognizing this. And I think the second question that he needs to ask relatively soon is that, like, why Demon Mama has reason to believe that, like, for instance, neurodivergent people that are like outside of school would have better outcomes than even operating within an imperfect educational system, which I think is a pretty hard bar to fly as well. But yeah, that first question, he's asking it well, and it's an important one to ask. I hope he asks the second one at some point during the debate.
Something like that, especially with no reason. What reason do you see? Here's the thing.
I can give you the reason.
Wait. Hold on. One of the things that's been annoying me about this conversation is that it's presumed that you must force people to go to school. There's nothing that says that you have to do that. There's no claim that you have to force people to go to school. Like, what gives you the right? You have to give a reason for why you think someone should be forced to do something. If you are making the argument for why we should force people to do something, you have to give a good argument for that.
Of course.
I don't think there's a good argument to force people. I don't think it's a good thing to force people to do something that's like quote unquote good for them, because I think there's a huge problem with coercing people into like your particular like worldview. And I think that there's arguments that can be made. I think that there's all kinds of things you can do to convince people that your way of doing things is better. I just don't think that forcing them with the power of the state is the answer to that, especially in this particular context. I think there are places where you could argue that like force is...
This is an incredibly weird argument. This is an incredibly strange argument, because you could apply this to literally any law ever. Like, what you're having a discussion on is the reasoning behind something. Like, making the argument that, like, hey, you shouldn't, like, force people to do stuff because you could make reasons, like, personal reasons for why that isn't the best for you. Like, that could be made for literally anything. But we still agree at the end of the day that, hey, we societally have to recognize and dub some things to be beneficial and some to be, like, harmful, and therefore sort of coerce people and force people into doing or not doing these things. Now, what Demon Mama is doing is she's making the argument that, like, oh, we shouldn't do that in the first place, when she doesn't really believe that, because there are plenty of other examples in which she believes that. So instead of having a discussion about, like, whether or not the threshold is met for, like, going to school or not, it's being held on whether or not you should force people to do stuff, which is kind of another red herring, which doesn't really belong in that conversation, so to say. So that's pretty strange. So my argument for why there is, like, a validity and there is utility in mandating something is that, hey, number one, I don't trust kids to be able to make an informed decision on their outcomes of not going to school and sitting home and watching cartoons at like 5 years old. I don't think that's a good idea. Even at 13 years old, I still don't think that they can make that informed decision, okay? If you would have asked like a lot of 13-year-olds at 13, hey, would you rather like drop, like if you had like the complete choice, would you rather like sit home and play video games all day or go to school? You'd have a sizable amount of people picking the former there, which I think is just generally a bad thing. And then in addition to that, I don't necessarily trust like parents either to be able to like make those perfect decisions. Like I can easily imagine, like, especially knowing the way the political climate works right now, where we know that there's a crazy amount of people that just like just have zero faith in institutions as a whole and think that people that go to school are being like educated in like Marxist propaganda or whatever. I'm scared for the outcomes of their kids, because fundamentally the kids don't choose their parents. And if you're born into a household with parents that are kind of nuts, and you're like forced to like not go to education at all or get homeschooled, like your outcomes are going to be really severely damaged because of that. And therefore, like a mandate is a good idea, because we make sure that all of these kids are doing what we societally believed is in their best interest, which is go and get an entire education, develop the social skills, develop the knowledge, develop the credentials and the certification in order to be able to have a good life, you know, going forward. And that's why things like higher education are optional, because at that point we can determine that, okay, at this point you have some educational background, so you have something to fall back on at least, and we're going to give you somewhat of a, like an informed decision enough to choose where you want to go from there. And even then we see a bunch of people like fuck up, like right when they go out of high school, right? And they waste like a few years or whatever, and then they realize that I should have been doing this, I should have done this instead. And that's at 18 years of age, right? I don't see like a world in which people can make that decision even earlier than that. So yeah, but that would be my reasoning for school mandates. But let's see what Hanz has to say.
Is more justified, and I think that we could run down that path. Like I said, natural disasters, plagues are ones where it's like, okay, if we don't step in here, other people are going to die far beyond this person. But that's not the case with school. You don't have that impetus.
Okay, so here are the two best.
I disagree. I think absolutely, like, if you don't have school mandates, it is going to adversely affect that person, and it's going to affect society as a whole. Maybe even on a global scale. Like, if you live in a world in which, like, let's say one of the most powerful nations abolishes school mandate, and suddenly, like, a larger percentage of their population just didn't, like, get educated, didn't learn about climate change, for instance. Imagine the effect that that could have on their democratic process and, like, their geopolitical influence of, like, not taking care of like global warming or stuff like that. So I could even make the argument from a global perspective that it would have a like a fairly direct effect on like the well-being of people around the world if like less people went and got educated. So yeah, I don't know. This doesn't feel good.
I can provide for why we should force somebody to go to school. All right. Excellent. First one, personal betterment. If ready? If existing in society is it is necessary to have a certain degree of skills, whatever those skills may be. It may be basket weaving, it may be hunting, it may be reading, writing, arithmetic. Any of those things, if you need it to exist in society.
I don't know about you guys, but if I'm doing a thing in a debate, and I know Bastiat does this as well, and it's a bit annoying sometimes, and like the person on the other end is constantly saying something, especially like if they start saying things and you've been talking for like a minute, they're trying to hop in, so it kind of makes sense. But if you've been talking for like 10 seconds and people are already like jumping with the okay, sure, I get it, like that's I personally it annoys me a little bit, and I know Bastiat does this as well sometimes. But yeah, that's not really relevant to the discussion here, but yeah. Just wanted to point that out.
Necessary to have a certain degree of skills, whatever those skills may be. It may be basket weaving, it may be hunting, it may be reading, writing, arithmetic. Any of those things, if you need it to exist in society, you probably should know it for your personal benefit.
No.
I let you talk for 5 minutes. Please let me like go through. It's 2 points. Like, please, God. So it will help them do better in society, and for especially extremely young children, where these formative years are extremely important. I do not think they are personally capable of saying, oh, I will choose just to never go to school, and that's better for me. And you're saying you can't force someone to do something that's good for them? But we argued, I'm not going to talk about the vaccine stuff. But
I mean, I think it's a poor comparison.
Okay, cool. I would say that in this specific case, being able to interact in society in a way that lets you like do literally anything inside of it, like, you can't order food off a menu. You can't do you can't get a job. You can't like do hobbies that require this activity.
Sure. Okay.
And this will permanently like make you worse off. It's like if people don't learn to read until like 10 years old, it's harder for them to learn to read. So what are we going to do then? We're going to permanently allow people to cripple themselves in terms of their capacity for life because of that. And then the second argument is societal. If society requires people being able to do these things, read, write, basket weave.
So the first argument is that argument more of self-fulfillment, like oriented around that perspective, which is I think is a good argument to go. And the second one is the more societal one. I have a feeling the second one will probably be more effective here because it's probably easier to argue than the first one. But I think both of them are pretty good. So yeah, good arguments.
Hunt. And we don't get them to be able to do it. Society will functionally collapse because people have zero skills to keep the society functioning. I think those are two very good reasons as to why we should coerce someone. I'm not saying forcing someone to school isn't coercive. I'm saying it is necessary coercion for the good of society, for the good of like keeping anything existing. So I would ask, what would we do for the super young kids, for like the 3-year-olds who don't want to go to school? Are they capable of making that discussion?
Yeah, sure. Have you ever talked to a 3-year-old?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh
cool.
no.
Because
oh, no.
I don't know if you know this, but
oh no.
Like as
Please
a matter
don't.
of like child
Please
psychology,
Please don't.
like children
No.
are actually pretty receptive to new things. They don't understand the world. They naturally seek guidance from parents. But this is like a reason. Like this is discussed so fundamental. Like we know this is why children are vulnerable to even negative things like abuse and things like that. It's because they trust their parents. They trust the adult figures in their life, and that trust right now is often taken advantage of and used to be really abusive. And that includes with the school system. You can tell a child, hey, we're going to go to school today. Isn't that fun? You're going to meet new friends. You're going to do this thing. And most kids, they're going to go. I don't remember a single time in any of me or my siblings' childhood where anyone had a problem going to school. It was ever even necessary to issue a threat because we were excited to go there, to learn, to have yummy foods, to meet our friends, to talk to our teacher who we liked. These are all things that can inspire a child to go to school. I would love to know what the statistics are on the number of times that you have to, the law has actually had to be invoked for a child. Now, this is what
Okay. Oh fuck. Okay. Oh boy. Let's stop it there. Okay. Oh. Okay. Where do we even start with this? Number one, that empirical argument you made at the end, like, show me how many times people have been forced to do it. So there's two different effects of laws, right? One of them is like preemptive, and one of them is like reactive. I think there's some variation of those two words, right? So the function of the law is partly reactive. So when someone does something bad, we step in and we do something about that, which whatever like punishment or follow-up it is to violating that law. But then there's another function of law, which is completely glossed over here, which is the preemptive effect of law, the sort of dissuasionary effect of like law. So because something is illegal, like less people are going to want to do it because there's repercussions for it. So it sort of dissuades people from engaging in those activities in the first place. And that's not something that can be picked up empirically. It's impossible to get numbers on like how many people wouldn't have gone to school if there wasn't a school mandate, because it's incredibly difficult to procure those numbers. So what she's done is she's like removed like half of the purpose of law and only focus on the reactive side. So you're going to miss like a bunch of the different people that were actually affected by the law by setting the bar there. That's like point number one. Point number two is that especially like when you talk about 3 years old, it depends largely on who those guiding figures are going to be in the parent's life. And I think Hanz should probably focus on this and mention this as well in his opening statement. Instead of just saying like, oh, I don't trust a child to make this decision. Hey, I don't trust a lot of parents to make the decision of like whether or not their kid should like go to school or whatever, because there are some crazy parents out there. So if you would have done that, then it would have been helpful. And obviously like the quality of the parents and the opinions of the parents is going to be basically like reflected in the desire of like the kid. So I think that when you're discussing kids as young as 3 years old, I don't think the law is particularly going to affect the kid mostly as much as it's going to affect the parents' outlook on life. And then the kid's opinion on it is going to mimic that of the parents. But then when they get a little older, when they become more like independent or like self-conscious or whatever, at that point, then the law is probably going to have some effect on the kids as well. But at that point of 3 years old, the law and the primary target of the law isn't going to be the kids themselves. It's going to be the parents. But yeah, and then the weird argument she made there, like, I don't think that, I don't know if she was making this argument or not, but that like, you know, kids would somehow like know that they want to trust teachers. I don't think that's something that's going to be done either. It needs to be something that the parents need to tell them and like enforce within them, so to say. So yeah, that's what I would say for that. The empirical argument or the burden she's giving on Hanz, it doesn't really make much sense. And then the reasoning here and the key focal like target, the population group, the actor she's talking about here isn't the right one when you're talking about the law at the age of 3. You know, it's going to be the parents, not the actual student themselves. But yeah.
Tends to happen in this conversation, and this happened on Twitter quite a bit, which is that there is a sort of switch, a pivot at convenience between like a high school kid or a child that's like 3 years old. I don't think you have to apply any level of force to get a child to go to school. And if you do, then there's a reason to.
You need to do it to the parents, not the child themselves, because the child at that point will do whatever the fuck the parents tell them to, pretty much, with like exceptions like here and there for like small things or whatever. But at the end of the day, hey, if the parents like want the kids to go to school, then it's probably not going to make a difference whether or not it's mandated or not at that point in time, right? However, if the parents don't want their kids to go to school, then the mandate's going to be important for whether or not the kid actually goes to school. And that's for the 3-year-old group. And when we're talking about the older group, then the law is going to be relevant to like all groups, because the kid themselves are going to have more autonomy at that point. So yeah, I think that you're like missing the actor analysis here, and you're prescribing this to the kids rather than the parents at that age.
There's probably a reason for it. If a child is screamingly terrified of school, then you can go, okay, maybe school or standard school is not the right answer here. And you can have something else set up for them. Maybe they need a tutor at home because they have special needs. That sounds fantastic.
That's not abolition. I don't understand. That's not abolition.
That is absolutely. What do you define abolition as? I'd be really interested to understand what you think abolition.
In this case, if you're like abolishing the concept of like a mandated school system, essentially you're saying we're going to send a tutor at home. What if the tutor gets there and they say we don't want to do anything? What, and you say like the parents, again, this is like explicitly all anecdotal, that you said you had a good experience and that you liked going to school.
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay, cool. A lot of kids do not. A lot of kids hate going to school. And here's the second part.
They should be forced to on threat of law.
Correct, because it is necessary for society. So excellent. Right, cool. So I let you talk for 5 minutes. Let me go.
Okay, so the argument he made at the beginning, that's not abolition. So I guess, because it sounded like Demon Mom was making the thing that like, hey, if like the kids don't want to go to school, then they can have a tutor sent home. Number one, that tutor would probably only get sent home, assuming that there was a mandate and the kid had to be educated in some way no matter what. Then the state would probably step in and send a tutor over, sure, but then it's not like the abolition of mandate that they're talking about here. Maybe like a tutor that they could apply for, but I don't think that would be the case either, because I don't think that the educational system is going to be like, oh yeah, you can either come to school and get educated with everybody, or we can personally send you a tutor to your house. Like, no educational system is going to keep that, because obviously everyone would pick the former in that case. So maybe it would have to be just for like neurodivergent kids in that case. And then you need to go through like the channels for that. And even then, depending on what school district you are, I'm not sure if there's going to be the resources for that. And then if it's like privately acquired by the parents, then that's going to put up a massive socioeconomic barrier, which is something that she was complaining about before when it comes to the enticement with free food from school as being an economic incentive. So yeah, I think this has to do mostly with the previous discourse. So I can't really, it's hard for me to say exactly yeah, what's being said here. But yeah, let's hear Hans's reply.
If you were saying that kids will willingly go to school if they're, right now you say kids like going to school because you like going to school, but in the alternative world that you are suggesting, it is not mandatory to go to school, which means kids can choose to do literally anything else. And you are telling me, straight-faced, that they will choose to go to the school, even a fun school, over doing literally anything else consistently.
I don't know. This sounds like a really weird framing.
It's like not a weird framing.
Wait, hold on a second. A kid can do anything, literally anything else. Okay, so like what? They can do that. They can do that now. Our kids can already do. They're already creatures. Like, okay, let me ask you.
Already creatures. No, okay, sure. They can do it now to some extent, sure. But they would free up an extra 8 hours a day if they didn't have to go to school, potentially. Right now, that 8 hours a day, it's locked, it's gone. You need to go to school for those 8 hours a day. You can do other stuff with those other hours you have afterwards. Sure, that's the case. But, like, without a mandate, then those 8 hours are negotiable, and those can be, like, taken out, and you could do other stuff with that as well. So, yeah, you're just missing, like, any form of, like rudimentary nuance with this argument, I feel.
Ask you this, just so that I can get clear what you're trying to get at. Let's say you have a 6-year-old, okay? And it's time to go to kindergarten, and maybe you get them to go for the first day, okay?
Wait, I got them to go? Like, is that coercion? Because when parents tell their kids to go to school... Wait, no, ask the question. Is when parents tell their kids to go to school, is that coercion? Like, is the parents, like, coercing the kids to go to school?
What's your goal with this?
No, it's a serious question. You said we can't coerce people to go to school.
Is that a serious question?
Yes.
Because it doesn't look like...
No, it's completely serious.
I think the reason Hans is asking this is because he's getting at the real reason why Demon Mom probably holds his opinion. Because fundamentally, like, her opinion stems from it's wrong to, like, for people to be coerced into going to education, which is why he asked the question about, okay, does the quality of the school even matter? So guess that's why he's asking this. I think Demon Mom's response to this is going to be like, there's a difference between parents coercing people and like a government doing it. But yeah, whatever. Let's see.
Okay, so let's say, hold on, when I say you get your kid to go to school, let's say you go, hey, 6-year-old, we have this brand new cool thing called school, and it's really great, you get to go do these things, and the kid goes, okay, daddy, okay, mommy, let's go to school. And then they go to school. No? Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. What if they say no? What do you think should happen?
They say, sorry.
Fucking ship him over there, okay? Get the Secret Service to knock on the fucking door. I'm sorry, little Timmy, you're coming with us. And they fucking kidnap him and throw him into school, okay? That's the world I want to live in, all right? Okay.
All right, buddy. I know you don't want to stay home, but you should probably go.
Okay. And if all right, and then what? What if they say no? Then
you take them to school.
Okay. And what if they don't want to get in the car?
You pick them up and take them to the car.
Okay. Yeah. This was literally me, by the way, in fucking I think it was kindergarten, or I don't remember if it was kindergarten or preschool. I didn't want to go in the car. I didn't want to leave the car. I was like holding on to the car. I refused. I didn't want to go. But guess what? My parents were based. Fucking school mandated, authoritarian pilled when it came to me going to school. So I went to school anyway and it worked out. Like, This is such a weird argument, I guess.
Okay, so you pick them up. What if they fight you on that?
Then if
do you beat your kid?
No, I'm not in favor of child abuse.
Okay. So what happens if you can't get them to go in the car because they're terrified and they don't want to go to school? Do you say, okay, let's wait until tomorrow and let's try this again?
And then tomorrow, and tomorrow they say the same thing, and they keep doing this. This kid never gets an education.
And there's systems in place for kids that want to go to school, that don't want to go to school, right? There are like educated professionals that are like, hey, if your kid really has, because what she's describing right now, where the parents' influence isn't enough. They're like, the 6-year-old is fighting back so violently against you that you're just simply unable to put them in the car. Like, this situation is fairly rare. It's like it's decently like common that kids just like don't want to go to school, but hey, with some moderate amount of like either like sort of like I guess manipulation, like when it comes to like psychological, like, oh, school is really cool, like you get to go there, you get to play all day and meet all these cool people, you can have a bunch of play dates or whatever, and then like that coupled with, okay, get in the car, lift, place, you know. Like those things typically they're good for 99.9% of cases. So we're already talking about an extremely slim amount of cases, but even for these cases, I'm sure the schools have some form of programs in place in order to be like, hey, like maybe like make the experience a lot easier for the specific kid when it comes to like extra support that they can receive and stuff like that to ensure that they actually end up going to school.
Sure, yeah, that's really challenging. That's a really challenging situation. What do the answer that you have to answer here? I don't have to answer that question.
Yes, you do.
You think they no, I do not. You believe they should be forced to go to school. I believe we should seek out an alternative. If a child is terrified of going to school, we should seek out another way to teach them. Excuse me. If a child, yes, by and large, children are, but there are of course examples where this is not the case. Largely with children who have like severe behavioral or learning issues from childhood. Those things.
Well, in that situation, you can have, yeah, literally, we already have alternatives. Alternatives for this already exist. If there are people that just like straight up have like a straight up phobia for school that prevents them from going to school for whatever reason, and that's detected and that's analyzed, then we have systems in place at the moment to try to help these people. Now, these systems are lacking, they're underfunded, they aren't as good as they should be, but they still exist. The argument for that shouldn't be by getting rid of a mandate so that they no longer have to go at all. The argument to that should be that, okay, hey, we need to make these integration processes for this kid that really doesn't want to go to school to get into school a lot better, rather than just like throwing out the entire, well, I guess, you know, we can make it legal for anybody to just like stay at home at this point. Like, I don't know.
Absolutely happen. So your belief is that you should physically pick up the child, force them into the car, and then what? What if they go to school and they're terrified and they're freaking out? What should you do then? I want to know what your view is.
Good school. We should have the good school. And if that,
okay. And if that, so what if they don't like the good school?
Then they go anyway. I'll let them pick the best of all the bad options.
And what happens if they don't want to go so bad, they're so terrified that they try to get out of school? What do you think they should do then?
We have like you can have people in this case. Let's be anarchists here. Let's say we have a community watch that if they see a child outside of school, they will escort them back to school.
Okay, and what if the child says, "I'm not going back to school. That place terrifies me." Even in the perfect school
then we can get them help. We can get them therapists.
Okay.
That's not an argument for no school.
Wait, hold on a second. We're not. Don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead. If the end goal is to get people to go to school, I don't think that you need a mandatory system. I think there are other ways you can do this. If a kid is resisting to the point of like physical distress, I think it's fair to say, wow, there is something that is terrifying my child, and we need to go seek out a way to help them learn. A way to get them inspired in learning, whether we're able to talk them through it with maybe a counselor or a psychologist or whatever, or
make sure that they go to school,
or to come up with an alternative way. Maybe we can do a homeschooling process, and maybe
what if they reject the homeschooling process? What if they jump out the window and try and run away every time?
Yeah, exactly. Like this like I don't know, this characterization of. Yeah, I don't know. So now you want to talk about one thing. You need to also like look at the outcomes of, okay, so let's take your solution for this. Let's get rid of the mandate entirely. Now there are a fuck ton more kids that are just not going to go to school. But they would have gone to school otherwise if there had been a mandate. But now these people are out of school. Like that's going to be the necessary like outcome and the necessary negative of like your policy here. But that's not even discussed. So you got to look at both the benefits but also the negatives of each policy and compare them to one another. But yeah.
That's a question. Wait. That's a question
for you. Keep making this crazier, Demon Mom.
No, we can't.
Okay,
wait. Please, wait. Hold on. Please tell me what your solution is. My solution there, if a child is that opposed to learning, then there might, like, I don't even know if there is an answer that anybody can have to that particular situation.
Therapy. We should get them mental
Wait, sure. That's what I said. That's not mandatory schooling. That's not.
Wait, mandatory therapy then if you don't want to go to school, dog. And then try to get them going to school. And then you're good. And then they get sent to school. Or it doesn't work, and there is like some separate learning program for these people that are just so like adamantly opposed towards going to school. There you go. Bang. Problem solved. Everybody goes to school, and people that have difficulties going to school are taken into account of. And under this system, we won't have the like 99 negatives of like a whole bunch of people that otherwise would have gone to school are now no longer going to school because it's no longer mandated.
Not mandatory school. You're now offering my solutions back to me.
No. The end result is getting.
No, this is their solutions. I don't know why Dima Mama thinks she has a monopoly on therapy, on this debate, or why like the anti-mandate side has a monopoly on therapy. It absolutely doesn't. You can have therapy and like side or like auxiliary like learning processes in both a mandated. I think it would function better under a mandated system, really, because then there would be more incentive to like funding for them, and then the schools would actually have an imperative to fund those systems. Whereas like otherwise, if school wasn't mandated, then the school can just be like, sorry guys, I kind of don't want to teach your kid or give them therapy. Like, it's just expensive as fuck. Like, I'm sorry, it's just extra effort. It's an extra resource. You know, if compensation isn't perfect, then it's a bit risky, so we're just not going to teach you. But if it's mandated, like, oh, fuck, I guess we got to take you, you know? Like, I don't know, like, this works in the both systems, and I would even make the argument under a mandated system. That, like, these, like, auxiliary learning processes and the therapeutic experiences will be even better there, so, yeah.
Getting them into a mental state where they will agree to the mandatory schooling, Demon Mama. That is the end result.
Wait, that's not the end goal.
Yes,
no. Okay, so wait. Then that's where we differ. My end goal is not to force children into school. My end goal is for children to be as happy as possible, as liberated as possible, as educated as possible.
What if they don't want to go to education? Every single kid. Let's say every single kid's afraid of the system. What are we saying?
Every single kid. Okay, so if every single.
Okay, so at this point you have to analyze the differences between between like the happiness and the analysis of like a 10-year-old child when it comes to them having a good experience then to the potential negatives of them doing that for the rest of their fucking lives. How for the rest of their lives, like, oh, well, until I was 14 years old, I decided to fuck around and have fun because that's what made me the most happy. And now for the rest of my life, because I didn't have information enough to make sure I made the best decision, I'm now relegated towards like making like shoes for centipedes for the rest of my life. Like, you know, nice. Like, this is a silly argument on that front as well.
Single kid is afraid of the system, then you have a failed system. And that should be discarded completely.
And I think if one child is so scared and terrified mentally that they can't fit inside the existing mandated system, we'll get them the assistance they need until they can fit back inside of it. Because we both know this is so far.
Or you can make this auxiliary learning processes for those people, and then you're good. Like you don't even like Hanz doesn't even have to concede to this at all. This argument that Dima Mama makes, so that like she doesn't think that's possible. Or that's inherently a bad thing. Make auxiliary learning programs for people that specifically just cannot like leave their house. Like maybe then, hey, like send a tutor home to that place, or have like different systems in school to make sure that maybe like the classrooms are too loud or there's people that scare them there. Have like smaller classrooms, maybe with them or some other kids like them or whatever. They can relate more. They can like have better discussions with one another, or maybe even like personal classes, personal tutoring. I remember in my school experience we had like specific like they were called like helpers. Like teachers that specifically like took care of one kid that was that had like difficulties whatever in school in whichever way or just didn't want to be there or whatever, and that seemed to work well, at least from like my anecdote, but that's just an anecdotal experience. But that's something that could be done as well to facilitate it if it's somebody that that kid like, you know, likes a lot, like that teacher or that helper or whatever. Like I don't know if this like widely feral kid exists that she's describing here, and if it does, it's like extremely few people, but yeah.
Wait,
hold on
a second.
What are we holding on for? I'm ready.
No, you're going off on a whole tear. You're saying this is.
I'm going on a whole tear. I spoke for 10 seconds.
Wait, but you're going. Yeah, okay, but.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm willing to bet. Okay, if someone made the breakdown, Dima Mama has spoken for a bunch more than what Hanz has here. 100% by asking.
Going off on a tear is not necessarily about the time. It's about where the hell you're going with the actual conversation. So if you want to talk about like, so you've revealed one thing, which is that you said that the goal is to make them fit back into the school system. I don't think that that's a good goal. I don't think that's a good enough reason to justify anything. I don't think that
it's not good enough to justify therapy. We should just let them be terrified and scream the entire time. What about mandated therapy for people who are struggling? That kid doesn't want to go to therapy. Mama.
Hanz slipped up here. Hanz said now he's operating within his system. So what Dima Mama can do now to get a super simple dunk, and this is what she's about to do. She's like, no, those people aren't forced to scream and be in the school system because they can go and do something else somewhere else, which is silly. Because like what Hanz should have said here is that, okay, so I guess we don't try to do them. They just like go home and like pick apples for like 14 years of their life, you know? Like that's what he should have said instead, because now Dima Mama is getting an easy dunk on that. Listen.
Oh, absolutely fucking not. No, absolutely not. You think you should wait? You think you should just like put someone into an institution just because they don't agree with you or because they have a behavioral issue? Is that what you think?
If they
you think the state should force kids into an institution?
If they cannot function in society, they are a danger to themselves and everyone else. They are running away from their family. Wait. Absolutely use force to get them in a scenario where we can use all the...
Demon Mama threw that dunk. She had an easy dunk for her there, but she somehow like she was ready. She was standing underneath the hole. She got the dribbles going up. And she was about to do it, and then I don't fucking know. Like she, like her shoe sole, like got stuck to the floor or whatever because it was too hot. So she just kind of fell over, on the dunk there. Yeah, I don't know. That was an easy opportunity there, but Hanz managed to get out of it at least.
The experts in technology we have available to assist them. Absolutely. Home therapy. We can send a therapist to the home. But what if they keep escaping the home? We'll use the community watch to bring them back. If they don't want to deal with a therapist, they don't want to deal with any assistance because they're so sad, so scared. They can't go to mandatory school. They can't deal with regular therapy. They're going to run away from everybody. At that point, yeah, I would probably be okay with taking this child and putting them in a place where they can't escape from to get them the help they need. And so like this one super child who like doesn't fit inside this doesn't fit.
I mean that's wait. Before you get any further, that's your super child that you've invented. I think that this child.
Your super child like refuses to go to school. Like why can't the child also?
No, my super child is that my wait, hold on a second. If you want an actual answer to that, I don't think this imagined super child exists or is even common, and I think it's such.
So why is she basing her entire argument around it, dude?
An outlier,
right? And it's the same thing with kids crying about going to school. Sure,
that's not true. No, that's not true. I'm sorry. I have to call you on that. I want you to engage with actual facts on this.
What percentage of the population? What population of children are like literally feral and will refuse to go to school in any capacity?
We're not talking about.
That's literally That's literally what you're saying.
Okay, like again, like this is just getting to the point where I don't think that you actually are interested in engaging in good faith. I think you're trying to like.
Bad faith. I'm not trying. I'm legitimately curious.
No, wait, Hans, I'm dead serious right now. Like this isn't memeing around. Like I think you're being in bad faith. I think if when I try to say, wait a second, I don't think the feral child is a good example for how we should structure a system or why we should justify or not.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna be honest. Okay, and I've seen this a bunch now. When people on internet debates say that you're acting in bad faith, there is a 70 to 80% chance that they're the ones acting in bad faith. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest with it. I don't know. This is just my anecdotal experience, but from recent debates I've watched, that just seems to be the case. Okay, I'm gonna be honest.
Not justified using force to force people to go to school, and your response is, "Well, feral child." No, I was just about to talk about the fact that, as it turns out. And you should engage with this. I would encourage you as a colleague and in a genuine.
I'm engaging. I'm listening.
Excuse me. Hold on. I'm not done with my sentence.
Okay.
That you should go and look at what the actual situation is as to how people feel about and are traumatized by and hurt by schools. Because I can tell you right now, it's not all butterflies and rainbows, as you seem to be like sort of laughing about when you refer to this feral child. There are a lot of children who deeply suffer. And excuse me. I'm not.
So what she's doing now is she lumping in everybody who has an issue with the educational system into like being potentially like something even remotely similar to this feral child in this discussion we're having here. When in reality, the vast majority of people that feel left out in the educational system right now would probably be able to be integrated in educational systems that were like a lot better than they are currently, especially in the United States of America. And you can see this by looking at other countries that have better educational systems and better educational outcomes as well. And take a look there and seeing what those outcomes are. So yeah, this is like she's lumping in a large group of people into her argument when they don't exactly like belong there, or it's a group of people that like Hanz can perfectly take into account given his system and his proposed reforms. So yeah.
Not finished talking. I would love to finish my sentence, but all right, like I can see where you're at with this. Like this is why I said on Twitter that I felt like you weren't engaging in good faith, because I really don't feel like you are.
Okay.
I feel like you have your position.
I can tell you.
I feel like you have your position, and you actually aren't. I don't think you're willing to engage. No. I don't think you're willing.
I told you all the
I don't think you're willing to
engage. I think we should improve the school system. But like, if we have the ultimate school system, and the kids are still doing this, they still did what you said. Again, you started the super child meme, not me. This kid.
No, you asked me. What about a child?
This kid refuses to go to school. Like,
excuse me. You're prescribing.
This is way dude. Okay, I'm gonna give two pieces of advice here for Hanz, okay? Number one, he did this in the beginning, but like Demon Mama just talked for a long ass time, and then Hanz said the first disagreeable thing, and Demon Mama hopped in instantly to interrupt him again. And it seems like he's like surrendered his time, okay? Can't do that, okay? You gotta make sure you take your time. Number two, you should focus more on okay, so what's your solution, Demon Mama? Instead of just like poking holes into like mine. And then debating that and seeing like, okay, here is why your system is going to have like a fuck ton more negative outcomes than what my system is going to be. And then having that broader discussion, because right now it's just attacking Hanz and his position with like really, you know, like super like hyper niche examples, so to say, which I think can still be accounted for during with a mandated system. But he just needs to turn the question and be like, okay, so how does your system take care of this child? Question number one. And question number two, what are the other auxiliary effects of your policy that are also really harmful, which is when you talk about other people that could go to school otherwise, just not going to school.
Me things I haven't said. First of all, if we had the perfect system, I still don't think it would need to be mandatory. I think you could get near to or literally 100% attendance without ever using mandatory measures. I genuinely believe that. I think that's very possible.
Absolutely fucking insane.
Well, really that's fine, but that's fine.
Can you tell?
Wait. You can call me.
No. I want you to explain this point. I'll let you talk on this first. All right, ready? Okay, explain to me how.
Good. Demon Mom actually can see the floor.
Where school or education is so appealing that children will choose it over literally everything else in society.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure, for sure.
Please.
Yeah, it's super easy. So wait, if you're trying to say that why I think that that's the case, I think kids like learning. And actually, it's funny because if you're willing,
sure, they probably like learning, but you know what else they probably like? They probably like playing with their friends. They probably like playing video games. They probably like going to theme parks. They probably like going to the playground. They probably like riding their bike. They probably like doing sports. They probably like about a million other things as well, to like a comparable or even like a superior degree. And we can just see this when it comes to the way that people prioritize things. Like we see under a system like right now, even under really good educational systems, and under with mandates as well, that like, hey, even in these situations, people like deprioritize school to do other things. And you know, sometimes it's like in exceptional like situations, it benefits them in the long run, like if they become like hyper famous, like, you know, like vast minority of cases, but in the most cases it kind of like messes them over. So like, I don't know, there's no way to like empirically prove either argument here, but yeah.
To actually engage with this in good faith, you can go and actually listen to the professionals on this. Professional educators know that kids love learning. Hell, we've had massive improvements in literacy and in general education since the introduction of computer technology, because you can gamify things.
So
I see.
So the math. So the math game. Some of my chat like posted. I had to make sure I wasn't a bad.
I see. Yeah, totally.
So the math games are going to be more fun than everything else. Like enough that a child will choose to pick the math game.
Maybe.
Why the fuck would you play math games when you can play League of Legends? Am I right? Okay. We think 13-year-olds are toxic today. Imagine a world in which 13-year-olds drop out of school to play League of Legends. All right. That's the world that Demon Mama wants, okay? That's the world we're striving towards.
No,
maybe.
If they're not, maybe. Wait, hold on a second. If they're not, then make them better. Then do better. We should turn to this. Here's what I'm saying here is we should turn to these things instead of forcing a child. If there's something that you have to force a child to do, like for example, here's an example of something I think you might actually have to apply force to a child to do. If a child has a cancerous tumor on their neck and they're running around, you're like, we need to get this looked at, and they won't go in. You might have to bite that bullet and say, yep, we got to force this kid to go get that taken care of because it's going to kill the kid otherwise. There you go. I would be so much more open to that. But I think that should be used as
okay. So at this point, okay, we can make easy examples here. So it seems like right now, the line Demon Mama is drawing, and I hope Hanz makes this, I don't know if he will though, but I'm sorry if I keep saying Hanz. It's just the Swedish way, and that's just the way that I've learned to say it now. But so she seems to be drawing the line hard at death. Beyond that, there's no like valid reason for people to be like taken out. So let's say, for instance, hey, let's say instead of like, there's another tumor growing, but instead of it like making you fucking dead, it severely impacts your knowledge base. It makes you just overall dumber. It makes you less sociable. It makes you less like able to like interact with people in an environment. It just gives you, it's gonna like fuck over the rest of your future pretty much. You're just not gonna do as well as somebody who had the tumor removed. Should we then force that kid to get that tumor removed? Yes or no? And she would have to answer no to this, because the outcomes of the things that I just mentioned, like just like being less intelligent, being less knowledgeable, being less sociable, having less skills, messing up your life in general, are the outcomes of not going to like education. So for her to answer this question, she would have to say like, yes, I know in that situation, I don't believe that that we should take that kid in, because I draw the line at death for some arbitrary reason. And for me, you know, if that was the case, I think we should probably like force the kid to do something to get rid of that, like, you know, this hypothetical knowledge tumor or whatever it is. So yeah,
it's a last resort, and in reality, I don't think we have to use force near to as much as we do right now. I think the reason we use force now is because it's deemed as expeditious to a specific end, and because, well, as it turns out, if you make it mandatory to go to school, you could push it off onto individual responsibility to blame people for when the system fails them. That's why I think we use force. I think you can build a system that uses no force.
Oh my god. Okay. I don't know what reality this makes sense. She believes that the argument of personal responsibility will be like less effective under like a world in which people can choose to go to school. Like in a world where people like literally have the choice to go to school, like, oh my god, just imagine what types of like, you're like, oh, okay, let's see. Did you choose to go to school at the age of 5 years old? Let's see. No, you didn't. I'm sorry. You should have just like taken better choices. Like that is legit the arguments we're going to get here. Well, now because it is such an extreme thing, while it's like literally mandated, something you have to do, more people are going to be like, holy fuck, something must have gone really wrong here for this kid not to finish like basic, like common core education. So that argument would be less likely than a world in which people can literally choose, and which people say just, oh, I'm sorry, you made a bad choice, lol, you know, like the personal responsibility argument. If anything, the personal responsibility argument would be like a million times more common and more well used and more effective. Like also, if it's just a bad argument, it'd be more effective under like a non-mandated system than it is under a mandated one. So
achieve close to, if not 100% attendance by actually choosing to actively pursue things that aren't force and pursue force only as a truly last effort.
And cool, you seem to take a lot of issue when I said use force as a last effort with the super child who like cannot function in society. They're willingly making choices.
Yeah, because you said that they should be institutionalized.
To get the help they need, absolutely. If they're a danger to themselves, they're a danger to everybody else.
Well, then I guess you and I just have different positions on.
No, but this is the last use of force. What if they're gonna Roblox themselves? Like, would you be okay with force then?
I mean, me personally, I would take.
Excuse me, hold on a second.
Wait! Whoa! Don't. Oh wow, we're gonna do the performative thing. Let's do it. All right. Listen, you want to hear? Me personally, if my child was going to like kill themselves or was eminently in physical danger, then yes, I would tackle them. I would be like, look, let's get you out of the danger. I know you'll see through this on the other side.
What about other people's kids? Would you force them? Would you? No. You wouldn't let the state take children from parents when the kid says they're going to kill themselves and the parents aren't doing anything. You're really going to let that happen? Really? Wait. That's what you're dying on right now?
Hold on a second. You're saying that, are we talking about an idealized world? I obviously think.
He's not gonna ask that question. That was a base fucking question from Hanz there. Fucking amazing. Okay. So Demon Mama just said like, oh, personally, if it was my child and they were doing shit, yeah, I would engage in violence. And then Hanz was like, what if it's like another person's kid? And she said no there for a second, and then Hanz reiterated, so you'd be fine with like the state like basically like implicitly like letting this kid die, and now she's just not answering the question. Holy shit. Based Hanz, that was a good fucking response.
Hold on a second. You're saying that, are we talking about an idealized world? I obviously think that right now, in our current state of affairs, it's probably a good thing if a child is completely isolated from the rest of society, that we have a mechanism in place by which they can get out of that. But I don't think. I don't believe. Hold on. No, you have to let me finish. If you ask me a question, no. I will stop it. Wait, Hans, I will stop right now.
You're allowed to run away. That's okay.
Bruh, I will stop right now.
I haven't raised my voice like that.
All right, this is easy.
Okay,
yeah, this is easy. Yeah, no, because you're talking over me. You literally need to let me finish on this. You asked me a specific question. I will not.
And you didn't.
Nope, I will not do this. I will not.
The question was, if your kid is going to Roblox themselves, will you stop them and institutionalize them?
Bring it back.
And you said yes.
No.
No.
Hans, I'm done. Hans,
and then I'm asking about for other people's kids. For other people's kids, would you be okay with the state doing that to other people's children if the kid's going to Roblox themselves? That's a yes or no question.
Hans. First of all, I'm actually done with this. We're not going to continue with this.
She's not going to answer the question, dude.
I'm actually done. And consider this a serious mark on our friendship, because I think this is remarkably ridiculous. First of all, you asked me two different questions. The first time you said, would I personally tackle my child if they were in physical danger? Yes, I would take that onto myself. I would take the risk of potentially harming my child physically onto my own hands. And if I hurt them in the process, that would be my goddamn responsibility, because I chose to intervene there. Then, just very, very slippery, you just about 5 seconds ago changed the question when you said, no, wait, the question I asked you was whether you would have them institutionalized. And you never said that in the first situation, nor did I ever do that. This entire conversation has been you. Excuse me, I'm not even. Hans, are you for real?
I'll give that to you.
I'm done. Hans,
I think what I said was about like whether or not you would stop.
Are you for real?
But then you asked. But then I asked,
Hans,
would you stop other people from doing this?
Hans, is this really?
Let's not even
wait.
Is this institutionalizing? Let's talk about stopping like the Roblox thing.
Hans, I'm done. This is disrespectful and stupid.
Okay.
And I mean that.
It's like a simple yes/no question. Like, okay, here's the thing. Okay, if you need to, okay, here's a teller, okay? More people need to do this, okay? So if somebody asks you a difficult yes/no question, what you need to do is you need to say yes, no, and then explain, okay? Because at that point, hey, when you say yes, no, and then you begin explaining, or you do a little bit of explaining beforehand, and then say yes, no, and then start explaining, if at that point they cut you off, then it's perfectly fair for you to be like, what the fuck, you're interrupting me, let me give my full answer, I answered yes or no, now I'm going to explain my reasoning for that answer, okay? That's fine, and then you could do that. But right now, what it looks like, if somebody asks you yes, no question, and then you want to do like 2 minutes of explanation before getting to the yes or no, you're not going to get to the yes or no. And that's what people want to get at when they interrupt. So if people just generally, hey, if someone gets a yes, no question, you answer the question and then explain, that would be so much better. Because then people can't get away with this.
I mean that on a very real way. Like, I came in here totally ready to have an actual conversation with you. And what keeps happening is you'll ask me a question, then you interrupt. And when I try to be able to actually answer that question, then you accuse me of talking too much. But if you ask me a question, if you excuse me, you're doing it right now. You're doing it right now. Oh, nice meme. I love that.
I mean, yeah.
Is that a problem? Do you think you have a problem that I talk too much?
I mean, gish galloping is a thing. Like, you don't really stay on topic. Yeah.
You think that? Wait. Where have I gish galloped? Give me a specific example of where I've gish galloped.
I asked you.
And we need someone to do the viewer, like the breakdown of like amount of time spoken on both sides. We definitely need this.
Whether you would stop your own child from Robloxing themselves, and then you said yes, and then the second question.
That's a direct answer, Hanz. That's not a fucking gish gallop, dude.
And then the second question,
this is so stupid,
which you refused to answer.
Come the fuck
was,
on.
Are you in favor of a?
But we know that you would answer the first question, Demon Mama. But what Hanz is asking you about, he's asking you about the second question.
State interceding to stop someone from Robloxing themselves if their parents won't do it.
Oh,
that's a yes
hold on a
question.
second. Wait, do you want to watch back the VOD? I challenge you to go watch back the VOD, because if you go back and watch back the VOD, you didn't let me finish that answer at all. Not even close. I didn't even get halfway through. You're doing it again. You're doing it again right now. Literally every single time I respond, you start to interrupt me before I can even answer. This is incredibly frustrating.
All right, I'll give
and I know, and it's funny. I guess like. No, I'm done. I literally don't want to engage with you anymore. I actually think this is one of the worst. I'm disappointed personally, because like,
cool.
And whatever, like you can say that's whatever, but I came on here because you invited me on, you wanted to have a talk about this, and I really genuinely tried to engage. I don't think I've thrown any.
I don't think you did, but that's totally
really okay. Wait.
I know you're disappointed. I mean, you made fun of like the concept of like getting a kid to go to school, even though you agreed that like in certain situations.
Wait, did I make fun of that?
Yes, you did. I don't think you engaged with the question. You talked about like in regards to like what's the important thing. I explained to you that like not having an education in society is literally life crippling for children.
Wait, and I never engaged with that?
Yeah, you didn't engage with that whatsoever.
I did literally engage with that.
Oh no.
I don't know, just watch back the VOD. Like, I don't know. This is like,
so like the key thing here, I don't know, there's some people in the chat, they're like Hanz gets to speak for like 30 seconds and they're like, Hanz, stop, let her speak. I don't know, this is a bit weird. But like the key question like that Demo didn't answer is, she answered it personally, okay, would you step in? And then the second question was, okay, would you want like a government or like a third party to step in to save somebody else's kids from Robloxing themselves? And she didn't answer that question. I think she did for a second. She was like, no. And then it got really loud. But I'll have to check that back. And that's the question that Hanz is getting upset over. But Demon Mom is painting as like, oh, like, you know, I did answer your question. And she's referring to that first question when Hanz very specifically using the first question as like a stepping stool to get to the second one. But yeah.
This is absurd. I genuinely did not expect like this level of actual bad faith from you.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you are.
I'm not.
I think you're exactly. That's what I thought.
Right, so have a good one.
And that's
I'm showing his true colors right now.
And this.
Oh, that was excellent. Oh, Jesus. She said we were done, so I took her out of the speaking to Hanz thing.
Okay, hold on, let me see if I can find this. Roblox. Okay, here's that.
What if they're gonna Roblox themselves? Like, would you be okay with force them?
I mean, me personally, I would. I would take.
What do you mean?
Hold on a second. Wait! Whoa! Don't. Oh wow! We're gonna do the performative thing. Let's do it. All right. Listen, you want to hear? Yeah, me.
Somewhere.
If my kid was gonna, my
child
was going to like kill themselves or was eminently in physical danger, then yes, I would tackle them. I would be like, look, let's get you out of the danger. I know you'll see through this on the other side.
What about other people's kids? Would you?
Okay, perfect. Okay, so she's answered the first question, and now Hanz asked the killer question. The second part. What about other people's kids? Let's listen carefully. I might have misremembered, but let's just check.
Force them? Would you?
No.
You wouldn't let this. No. You wouldn't let this.
She said no, dog. She literally said no. And now she's like, well, I never answered that question.
State take children from parents when the kid says they're going to kill themselves and the parents aren't doing anything. You're really going to let that happen? Really? Wait. That's what you're dying on right now?
Hold on a second. Oh. You're saying that, are we talking about like an idealized world? I obviously think that right now, in our current state of affairs, it's probably a good thing if a child is completely isolated from the rest of society, that we have a mechanism in place by which they can get out of that. But no, I don't think. I don't believe. Hold on. No, you have to let me finish. If you ask me a question, no. I will stop it. Wait, Hans, I will stop right now. If you're gonna do this, I will stop right now.
You're allowed to run away. That's okay.
Bruh.
She literally said that she doesn't. Oh, for fuck's sake! She did say no. Alright, I guess in Demon Mama's ideal world, you wouldn't have a third party step in when a kid that's not yours threatens to Roblox themselves. Yeah, that was quite the fiery debate. I think overall, Hans needed to focus more on her system, like instead of it just being the. Well, I guess he might have planned to do that, but the debate got cut short for reasons. It should have asked more about like, okay, so like what like, okay, let's talk about your system. So your system maybe can solve for this like hyper specific example, but it would also do all these negative things. And I don't even think it would solve for that hyper specific example better than the mandate system could. And that was missing. And then the fact that like, apart from the very end there, like Demon Mama spoke for the vast majority of the time. That was that debate. Damn, it was a fiery debate. I'm happy I watched that shit. Holy god, damn. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun debate.